We're going to get started. So the way that we always start this, folks, is I will ask the chat, and then Wyzen and I will also talk about it. What did you watch? What did you play? What did you read this weekend? And then also, I should give Wyzen a chance to introduce themselves. So go ahead and tell us who you are, your level 2 member, but anything else that we should know, and then we'll get into watch, play, read over in the chat. So over to you, Wyzen.
Yeah, my name is Wyzen Lemur on most platforms. There is another account, Zombie Doc, that I will play with on my Xbox occasionally. You can see MLB 23 over my shoulder. Important things to know, I do live in a small rural town, so this is a really great way for me to connect to community and to be involved in things I care about is through the digital, any kind of digital network like this. And Checkpoint has been really great. So I stepped up a little bit and decided to take on a little bit more of a leadership role. Other important things, I do use he and they pronouns, so either one interchangeably, and I'm also open to questions about that through private messaging. I'm totally open to that.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, with that, what did you watch and read and play over the past weekend?
Let's see. I have been trying out MLB 23. I've actually really enjoyed that sort of mechanic, that game mechanic setup, the way they have it, and how intricate the difficulty settings can get. And then I've also been Power Wash Simulator 2, or not 2, Power Wash Simulator as well, and what was the other one? Disney Dreamlight Valley. I saw the update dropped, and so I had to hop on again and see what was going on there.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll be talking about that here in just a moment.
Yeah.
I have just finished reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I highly recommend it. It definitely went some places. It was a really brutal read by the end, very much sadder than I expected, but a good read, especially for gamers, because it feels like it's an argument. It's something that we can appreciate as video game people, especially if you're a video game developer. You could really have an appreciation for it. Playing, I'm still working my way slowly through Yakuza 0, enjoying it a whole lot. I just met Majima really and starting to figure out his storyline, and he is an absolute goofball for somebody with an eye patch. You would think that a Yakuza with an eye patch would be a whole lot more grungier, but he is a goof, and I love him. So that's fun. And then I am watching not much anything. I just watched the Mario movie, but I won't talk about that for spoiler reasons because it just came out. I also caught up on some movies. I finally watched the anime Belle, the movie Belle, and I enjoyed it. I don't think it was quite as good as everybody had hyped it up to be, but it was pretty good. And I'm hoping to go see the movie Suzume if I'm able to catch it in theaters before it comes to streaming. But that's the latest Makoto Shinkai, who did Your Name and Weathering with You and all that stuff. It's the latest from that director. So definitely on board to see it. Folks, as you're hearing this, if you want to share in the chat what you watched, read, or played this past weekend, let us know as well. But with that, we're going to move on to some of our stories for today. The first one is about E3. So literally minute after our TWIG from last week aired, E3 was canceled. And so we were last week speculating about whether or not E3 would happen after, who was it that pulled out? Was it Ubisoft maybe? There were two companies, Tencent and Ubisoft maybe, pulled out. And so I was like, yeah, it's probably going to cancel. And then it immediately did. So not really much to add here, but a bummer nonetheless. I think, there's a lot of mixed feelings about E3 and the ESA. Some people really love it. Some people really don't. But I think it's sad to see the end of an era happen kind of regardless.
I think in my notes it was something like, is digital killing the IRL star or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think that's the big question that everybody's asking themselves about, if this event that felt so ubiquitous is capable of being canceled, what else is? I hope that we don't see, I hope other people are able to adapt well. I think E3, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago that E3 doxed all of their vendors, and they never really recovered from that. I think they were sued out the wazoo, and that was where things really got in trouble for them.
Yeah, that would do it.
Says playing the RE4 remake, Marvel Snap, and watched Super Mario Brothers movie, and been reading Ultimate Spider-Man. And he also shared that it used to be a goal of his to go to E3. Now he just wants to go to EVO or GDQ. Yeah. I can think of a lot of ones that I would like to go to. Honestly, I would love to go to PAX. I know that literally just happened, but if I could ever get to PAX East, I would be thrilled to play some of those indie games and get to experience all that development scene. Another random news out there. This is kind of something off the wall that nobody was expecting, that they're remaking Moana. for whatever reason, Dwayne Johnson announced that they're remaking a live-action Moana. I have a feeling this is just Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wanting to do whatever he wants to do, and just using his massive amount of star power to just be like, I want to make another Moana. And people were just like, yeah, okay, Dwayne, we'll let you make another Moana.
We'll let you. We're not gonna smell what The Rock is cooking.
Yeah.
We're not gonna find out what can happen if we say no to you. So.
Yep. I am very curious to see what they do with him as far as Maui. Like, is it going to be like a CGI live action experience where he's like edited? Is it going to be like a suit? Because he does not have the body type of Maui at all. Like, even the slightest bit. Doesn't look like him, doesn't have the hair like him. And really, it just wouldn't even make sense for him to play that character beyond the voice. So I don't get it. But
I think the most he's got is like the barrel chest.
Yeah, but I mean, the barrel chest doesn't
have
the like.
With Maui, you have to have like the barrel belly too.
Yeah.
Like
it's like almost trying to think of. The body type, but it's very much like straight lines. He's like straight down, and the Rock is like a triangle, and the triangle just doesn't work. So I'll be very interested to see how it goes. Alice is saying why, and Moana is too new. None of the remakes are as good as the originals. Yeah, I haven't really dug the like live action remakes. I'm curious about the Little Mermaid one coming out, just because Little Mermaid is so old. Yeah. But Beauty and the Beast was just okay, and it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see why this happens and what they do to make it actually different. I love Moana. It's one of my favorites. So that's honestly the reason why I'm probably the most disappointed about this, is because of the fact that I do love this story so much, and I don't understand why we're getting it again so soon.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere before I saw it in the notes for today, and was just kind of like, this, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why? So.
It doesn't make any sense. And it was also announced off the heels of another movie getting its cast. I'm trying to remember what it was. I can't remember. Lilo and Stitch. They're remaking Lilo and Stitch in live action as well. And so they literally just announced the cast. And so I was like, same general like vicinity, same general vibe as Moana, but telling a very different story. And that's a remake that I can at least somewhat get behind. I'd be interested to see how they do it. And it's been long enough that like Stitch is in the nostalgia vision of millennials.
Right.
And it could be interesting to see it again.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, like, Lilo and Stitch, we're getting to the point where the people who really enjoyed that as kids are having kids. And so that target of, like, young families makes sense. Mm-hmm. Moana, I would have to agree that it's too new.
Yeah. I didn't grow up with Moana. Like, I was a parent.
Right.
I was a parent whenever Moana came out, and as I've already discussed earlier in stream, I'm very young, so it's not fair. Don't try and nostalgia bait me with a movie that's only a couple years old.
Right.
Zando says, I hope The Rock looks like Nikali from Street Fighter V with crazy CGI hair. And Sneaky Pigs says, the live remakes are never as good as the animation. Just stop. And then Alice is talking about Little Mermaid and how it felt represented by the pale ginger kid with tomato soup hair. And they have made a pretty drastic character change that was somewhat controversial. I will say I saw a trailer literally yesterday at the Super Mario movie for the remake of Little Mermaid, and I liked it more than the first one. The one that was like 30 seconds and was just her singing Part of Your World. Actually getting to see her as the character and see her more in that role and hear her say like actual lines and not just sing the song, I enjoyed it more. I'm excited for it now. I think that trailer got me more hyped about it than the original trailer. So we shall see. But at the very least, I can say that Nora, who is my 4-year-old, did sit up on the edge of her seat when she saw that trailer and was like, Ariel. She whispered, Ariel, as soon as she saw it. So she was so excited to see that. So I'm excited for the opportunity to at least get another version of that story told, and we'll see what changes they make that feel necessary. With that, we're going to move on to the next story, which is Xbox Game Pass Games. What was added to Game Pass this month in April 2023. We'll also go through some of the dates there. Loop Hero, that was one that was on my list for a while. So it's coming on the 4th, so it should already be on your Game Pass.
Yeah. Everspace 2 is coming out PC on the 6th, which is today. It's today, so we've got a couple coming out today.
Yeah. Iron Brigade is also coming out today, just to console and to cloud. Not
Ghostwire Tokyo on the 12th to console, PC, and cloud.
NHL 23 dropping on the 13th on console.
That's one that I always like to at least check out a little bit. just see what they've done and updated since the last time I checked it out, which is always every other year. And then we've got Minecraft Legends on the 18th to console, PC, and cloud.
A game that I'm very excited about, Coffee Talk Episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly, is hitting the scenes on April 20th. I don't know if you played Coffee Talk. Have you played it, Wisen?
I have not, but that is one that I was like, what is that? Is that
With
one
your
of those
love
cozy games?
of cozy games, you need to play Coffee Talk. 100%.
Is the episode 1 on Game Pass right now?
It might be. I think it is. And you should absolutely give it a play. It's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Excellent story. Really fun little cozy elements to it. And I think you would enjoy it.
Well, a bunch of space just opened up on my console because they took MLB 22 off
There
recently,
you go.
and that was a big chunk of my space, my storage space. So we also got the last case of Benedict Fox, which is one that I wanted to check out. That's dropping the 27th, console, PC, and cloud.
Homestead Arcana may be coming out at some point in April. Didn't give us a date for that one. And that'll come to PC. And then the games that are leaving, which I was disappointed to see a lot of these games that are leaving. I know Dane the Pain, I think that he's already hopped off, but Dane the Pain will be sad to see one of them go. So we'll start with Life is Strange, True Colors is leaving.
And we got Moon Glow Bay.
That's the one that I think that he'd be bummed about. Panzer Core 2 is leaving.
Rainbow Six Extraction.
Oh man, I didn't want to get this one. The Dungeon of Nahulbuk.
The Long Dark.
And the Riftbreaker. And
All
those
right.
are what is leaving from Game Pass this month. So any of those games that you may want to play before it leaves, be sure to grab. Otherwise, say goodbye to them and let us know if any of those games that are coming to Game Pass interest you and will be ones that you want to play. I will hype up Coffee Talk until I am blue in the face, and Loop Hero was a real highlight, so that would be worth people's times. With that, we move on to our next segment, which is Disney Dreamlight Valley, as Wisen already mentioned, just got its latest update. So I'll actually just let you take this one because I know very little about Disney Dreamlight.
Well, their latest update, I'm still playing to get the Simba and the Nala, but you can see on the opening screen what new characters basically they've added in the update. So you know pretty much when you open the game that they've added Simba and Nala. I'm not quite sure how you get them as your friends yet, but they've added it seems like they've added quite a few little side missions that keep you a little bit more engaged as you're just sort of wandering around the village doing your daily tasks. You're apt to find more stuff just laying around the ground that'll trigger a little side mission that you get to do. I actually thought it was really funny. One of the first ones that you find is for Minnie, who makes you do a quest early in the game that requires 200 clay or something like that. And this is one of those collection games where you have to dig to find the clay. I had half the forest dug up and most of the beach dug up before I got the clay. And so my favorite part so far of this new update is you do this little side quest for Minnie, and then complete non sequitur at the end, she goes, "Oh, by the way," and goes on this whole conversation about, did I make you get too much clay? And you have the option of being like, it was so much. Oh my goodness. And then at the end, she ends up giving you a full stack back, which is nice. And I thought that was really interesting because it, to me, indicates that the developers are kind of listening to what they've done well and what they could improve on. And they're kind of going back and that's a fascinating thing to me, having grown up with video games that just came out and they were done.
Right.
Kind of thing. So
yeah, the games as service model, you would think surely if anybody can do it, it'd be Disney.
You would think.
I hope so. We'll see. That's the one thing I've heard is that the foraging in the game is pretty rough, and especially for the more hard to find, that it's really awful. So I'll be interested to see how they continue to adjust that and fix it up. I played all of an hour of Disney Dreamlight, and I was like, "Yep, I know what this game is. I'm not going to play it," and that was my decision.
Fair.
I think the only thing that would get me to play it is if my kid wanted to play it. That would be a way that I could get her into video games.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't for me. But let us know in the chat if you're playing Disney Dreamlight still and if you're excited for the update. With that, we're going to move on to a random one. Shigeru Miyamoto, as Super Mario Brothers movie is hitting the airwaves, is actually doing some interviews. And so with a Shigeru Miyamoto interview, that means we're going to get random fun facts because he's not somebody that gets interviewed very often. And apparently weighs in that he would not trust Dr. Mario. I don't know why he felt the need to highlight this, but just talked about all of the different powers and things and careers that Mario has had, and just said that the only one that doesn't really make sense is the Dr. Mario one because he is not actually a doctor. He is purely a blue-collar person that is dressed up as a doctor. So it's now confirmed Dr. Mario, not trustworthy and not a doctor. for whatever reason. So that's a random little one. Do you have anything to add there, or just not a doctor?
Just not a doctor. Don't
Just not a
trust
doctor.
the not a doctor.
So some of you, if you're in the anime scene, may remember years ago whenever Verve launched. Verve was an exciting thing to kind of come out of nowhere and kind of felt like a fun little conglomerate of YouTube companies. So that was where we had this like overlap of things like Mondo Media and gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of what was their company. It was where Rooster Teeth originally was. There were all of these like companies that were YouTube companies that banded together to form this conglomerate that became Verve. And then they were around for like 2 or 3 years, and then a bunch of them left. And then Verve bought, and then somebody bought Verve. And so most recently, Crunchyroll owns Verve and owns Funimation and wants to put all of the anime that they can on their servers on the Crunchyroll side. And so officially now, Verve is shutting down. So I think there's like 2 or 3 platforms even remaining on Verve, but they're now officially going to go away. I don't know where they're going to go, but they're going to have to find a new home somewhere else, whether they'll be adapted into Crunchyroll or whether they'll find a new home somewhere else. But it is a sad end of an era. I was a fan of Verve. I was an early subscriber. I think I was one of the first people whenever they announced to sign up for that streaming platform because I was excited for some of the things that were on there. But I think it's just going to go off into nothing land. I even think that like, what's the name? My Brother and Me, their show was on there for a little while. Like it was really random chunks of YouTube information that now is just gone. So a bummer, end of an era, but it is what it is. That's just kind of the way that the media company works, and hopefully Crunchyroll will treat them well and continue to put out good, high quality anime for us. All right, any thoughts on that one? Go ahead.
I am not much of an anime person. I had a brief stint of anime in like 8th grade when my only friends watched anime and that was it, but it wasn't the good kind.
Right.
And so now it's very difficult because largely it's just like middle school flashbacks for me.
There you go.
Unfortunately, like I can absolutely appreciate it as an art form, and that it takes a lot of talent and skill to become an animator in an anime style, and I can recognize it's its own style and all that, but it is one of those things that's just really difficult for me to engage with. So
yeah. Well, obviously, I'm always around to make any recommendations for anime if anybody ever does get curious, but I definitely feel that. I think it's definitely, and not an acquired taste, but it's definitely something that's like weird enough that you have to know the right like corners to turn to. So totally feel that. But that is shutting down on May 3rd. Let us know if you're sad to see Verve go or if you ever even jumped on the Verve ship out there in the comments. Next up, a new shape has been discovered by mathematicians, and this is kind of a random one. It's not even necessarily nerdy. I almost consider this one more like geeky news, which it is the Week in Geek, so this is definitely fair game. But it is called an aperiodic monotile that they're calling by its code name Einstein, which is actually not based off of the famous mathematician, but is instead based off of its true iteration of the term, which is Einstein, one stone, one tile that repeats or does not ever repeat in perpetuity. So it's a 13-sided shape that no matter how many times you line it up end to end, it will never repeat the same pattern.
I got so excited about that when I saw that on TikTok. The way I saw it was I saw a stitch with somebody who was like, I thought math was like done. No,
we're
math
with
is
math, right?
Right, we're finished with math. No, we're not finished with math. We are still doing really cool things with things like math and science, and I wish I didn't have a bad math teacher that made me hate it.
Yeah, math can be really fun. I find that that's the two parallels. Your math teacher will either be the most fun person to exist on planet Earth or the worst person to exist. There's no in between with math teachers. They're either the greatest teacher or the worst teacher. Whereas for the most part, like social studies, history, they're always gonna be fine. Always gonna be great. English teachers are always the best teachers. Those are my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, interesting, random, but still a curious thing. I think it looks like a t-shirt. All that I can see is a t-shirt, and I can't unsee it because I see the 2 arms and then like a little ripped crop top or something on the bottom and the neck hole. So I don't know why, but I can't unsee it. So if you do see it now, congratulations, you will never not see a t-shirt. Next up.
I think they were calling it a hat. If you turn it upside down, it's a hat.
Yeah.
They were calling it a hat.
They called it the hat shape at one point. I think they've landed on Einstein now because that's all I'm seeing, but I definitely had the hat article originally shared. So strange. With that, this is something we're going to deviate a bit from the order here for just a second, just to go through the BAFTA awards. So I forgot to add this to our list of things. We're just going to go through it real quick rather than highlight it too long, just because there are a couple that really need to be highlighted. But the British Games Awards, the BAFTA Games Awards, did officially happen last week, and there were some real surprises on here. So we're going to go from the bottom to the top, read through them real quick, and then we'll move on to our next segment of the show. So I'll pound these out real fast. Immortality won for Best Narrative. Pete Scaturo of God of War Ragnarok took home music. Keith Leary and Bear McCreary also took that home. Horizon Forbidden West, Technical Achievement. Endling Extinction is Forever took home Game Beyond Entertainment, which is their Games for Impact category. I disagree. I think Endling was fine, but that's whatever. Family and Social Game, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Best Performer in a Supporting Role was Leia DeLeon Hayes from God of War Ragnarok. The best original property was Elden Ring. The best evolving game was FF14. The EE game was God of War. The performer in a leading role was Christopher Judge from God of War, who did a significantly shorter speech that time. Game design was Vampire Survivors. Fellowship is Shuhei Yoshida. British game is Roller Dome. Multiplayer game is Elden Ring. Artistic achievement was Tunic. Debut game was Tunic. Audio achievement was God of War Ragnarok. And then, as Sneaky has already highlighted there, the true surprise was best game of 2023 was Vampire Survivors. So that was something that we had to highlight because, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe my jaw hit the ground whenever best game was Vampire Survivors. It's a fine game. It is not the best game of last year. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. I was glad to see Tunic take home some awards there and do some debut game stuff and artistic achievement. Thought that was pretty good. Honestly, the art for Tunic wasn't as inspired to me. Maybe it's just the menu, and I was very curious to see God of War not take home nearly as many awards at the BAFTAs as they did at the Game Awards. But that's just going through the quick highlights. If you have any thoughts, Wizen, you're welcome to weigh in, but I know that I didn't throw that on the outline, so that was just highlighting it real quick.
No extra thoughts to add. I need to watch more of those.
Yeah, the BAFTAs are great. If you've never checked them out, they are a good award show that I try and catch every year. I try to catch the TGAs. I try to catch BAFTAs every year just because I think those are two that are really worth watching. All right, next up we have things that have been submitted to us. So this is news that you could submit to us. If you would like to submit news for next week, then you can either drop it on our Discord or bit.ly/deartwig, DEARTWIG. That'll send you a link that you'll be able to put in your news and let us know that you'd like it to be covered in the next week. But we do have some highlights from the Discord already for this week. First up, Splash Force shared with us that Pokemon Stadium is finally coming to Nintendo Switch Online. It was announced whenever the N64 was officially announced, but now it will be coming to NSO subscribers on April 12th. The big bummer is that you cannot bring over Pokemon from your Game Boy Advance or from any like Pokemon Home or anything else. So that is disappointing, but as Buish noted on our Discord, that's just you can't bring them over yet situation. I think we're going to get there. I hope we're going to get there, and that they just weren't able to make it happen by the time the first Stadium came out. But I loved Pokemon Stadium. The best part of the game for me was the mini games, and so I will probably at least boot it up just to play through some mini games maybe next Thursday. But that's a highlight for me. All right, next up is Sony. This was submitted by Sneaky Pigs. Sony has announced they are getting back into the handheld game, but that they're wanting to focus more on remote play than on cloud play. So we will see how that goes. I think it's a weird call. I think that Sony did an excellent job with the Vita. The PSP was certainly a also very good console, and they definitely owned that corner of console marketing for a while. Without the Vita, I don't think one of my favorite game franchises of all time, Danganronpa, would exist. So I'm very thankful that the Vita existed, and I'm thankful for Sony's involvement in the handheld game. But I'm very curious to see why they're choosing to not go in the realm of cloud. And that might just be me talking, because I pretty much exclusively play cloud games. Pretty much all the games that I play are on Xbox xCloud. If I don't have them on Steam, if they're not Switch exclusive, then I'm playing a cloud game. Those are pretty much my criteria. So I was curious to see that, and hopeful that they do end up working towards something. And currently codenamed the Q Lite.
I'm always interested in handhelds, but it's very difficult for my Xbox brain to switch over to the like where
Oh yeah,
the
triangle, square,
which
circle,
one is
X.
what. Yeah, because the X is technically like the X is at the top, which is where
Yeah.
Y is, which doesn't make sense because the X should be on. I don't know. It's a whole thing in my brain. I have tried. If I can pick up like a cheap used one somewhere, I might pick it up, but otherwise, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to like PlayStation exclusives just because it just doesn't work out very well. I mostly just get frustrated.
What's actually funny to me is that my Nintendo brain took a lot of time to switch to Xbox because
Yeah.
they're right, left, left, right. They swap the A, B, and the X, Y back and
Yep.
forth. And so it took me forever to get used. And whenever I get into like an Xbox game and I play for a while and I switch back to Nintendo, it throws me off every time. So, yeah, I totally feel you there. At least typically like PlayStation and Xbox are direct corollaries. If you don't look at them,
Yeah.
they play the exact same, whereas Nintendo plays
That's
opposite.
true. Yeah, that's true.
Another piece of
And
sneaky news.
weirdly, I had an easier time with the Switch. I
Yeah.
don't know what it was.
That's interesting. I guess because it's so different, but I almost wish
Yeah.
that Nintendo kept with the weird wonky controllers like the GameCube era stuff
Yeah.
because that
Oh,
was easier
yeah.
for me to remember than whenever they went like the codified program of handheld controllers. So another piece of sneaky news: Shrek 5 is apparently happening, and I don't know why. I don't know why we have a Shrek 5. I don't know why we need a Shrek 5, but apparently they're wanting to work on Shrek 5. I think that it is because of the success of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, but I don't know what more story they're going to tell. I can assure you I've never seen Shrek Forever After, I think was the fourth one. I maybe have seen Shrek 3 like once or twice. I definitely remember growing up and enjoying Shrek 1 and Shrek 2, and I'm sure if I went back, they would probably hold up well enough. I know they were definitely raunchy and raunchier than most of the kids' movies that I would have been allowed to see, so that was always the fun part of them, but I just don't know how they would keep going. We'll see.
Yeah, my dad and I actually just talked about Shrek because of the movies that I was like, let's watch this all the time when I was a kid. Shrek was one that he actually liked.
Yeah.
And in particular, he really liked Donkey.
Oh, yeah.
So like this, just reading the like headline, "Dreaming of a Donkey" spinoff. My dad would be thrilled if there was a Donkey spinoff.
That would be a very curious story. I feel like Donkey needs like a short. He needs like a series of shorts. That would be the best thing to do.
Yeah, Donkey shorts would be great.
But it's got to be Puss in Boots had the most like lore to build out, which is
Yeah.
why the story kind of
Well,
worked.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of lore to be had in a donkey marrying a dragon.
That's true. Yeah, Sneaky's with us. A Donkey spinoff for shorts would be fun.
Yeah.
I think the shorter the better. I definitely don't want to watch a Donkey movie.
Yeah, I don't
would
know
be
that I could do that.
Not my steez. Maybe a series of shorts or something like that, like a la Cuphead, where it's like two shorts packed into one episode. That would be something I'd be down for. But we'll see if that ever happens. bit.ly/DearTwig. Now it's time to move on to At This Point in Nerd History. Okay, so what happened throughout time and space on April 6th throughout time?
I did try to look up some fun facts off the top of my head. I mean, not off the top of my head. I mean, on the internet. I smashed two sentences together there. I don't know any fun facts off the top of my head, and I tried to look some up on the internet.
Right.
But I did find some movies that are not on our list, one of which that I was very surprised you did not catch.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, I'll go over games real quick. Some games that came out on this day in history was back in 2012. Xenoblade Chronicles hit the U.S. market, so it may have been released in Japan first. I don't remember if they were still doing that in 2012 or not, but it did hit the airwaves here in the U.S. 2012. Pokemon Gold and Silver hit the U.K. in 2001. Same with Conker's Bad Fur Day. Also hit the UK in 2001, which I found very interesting. Those could not be two more different games to have released on the same day, and I think that's pretty hilarious. And then 1992, Contra 3 released in the US.
All right, so for movies in 2018, we got A Quiet Place, and in 2007, we'll just say 2007. 2007, we got Death Proof. In a similar vein of the sort of horror, thriller, action kind of area, in 2013, we had Evil Dead. In 2019, we had Pet Cemetery. I think that says 2014. America Winter Soldier. Could that be 2014?
Oh, really?
And this is 2001. What came out in 2001 on this day? And I am surprised that Nerd Pastor Nate did not catch.
I'm very excited. I didn't know Winter Soldier came out on this day.
Yeah.
Surprised I missed that.
Pokemon 3, the movie, came out on this day in 2001.
Very curious. Yeah, those are dates that definitely wouldn't stick in my brain, but it does surprise me that they wouldn't be anywhere.
Yeah.
I scour the internet, and sometimes I find them, and sometimes I don't. And
Here,
then every now and again, go ahead.
I found a good website. I'll send it to you on
Do
the Discord.
send me, because I'm always looking for more. I have a couple bookmarked, but sometimes they're trustworthy, sometimes they're not super helpful. This is some fun facts. Sometimes we have these in additions to games and movies. Sometimes we don't. It just kind of depends on what highlights on like websites. But these were three that I thought were pretty interesting. In 1931, going way back in time, the original broadcast of Little Orphan Annie, which is of course what Annie is based on, the actual like audio radio production, started airing on NBC Radio back in 1931. And in 1906, the first animated cartoon was officially released, and it is called Humorous Phases of Funny Faces by J. Stuart Blackton, and that was 1906. And then even further back, we're going even into the 19th century here. 1889 was the year that George Eastman began selling Kodak flexible film, the rolled film, commercially. I thought those were pretty interesting facts that doesn't feel that long ago, but is also quite a long time ago. It's interesting to think about technology and how technology has continued to evolve. So I always like to highlight those things just because I think they're fascinating.
It is really cool, and I wish I knew more of those fun facts about that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be paying attention to that segment more.
Yeah, I always enjoy at this point in history, and that's why it's everybody's favorite segment of the show called At This Point in Nerd History. There we go. Okay. Now we're on to our next segment, which is upcoming releases. So we'll do the same thing we did earlier, where we'll just kind of go back and forth. Some of these may even kind of overlap with Xbox Game Pass and the things that we read earlier. The reason I don't normally include Xbox Game Pass in this segment of the show is because often those games are not new releases on Xbox. So all of our upcoming releases for the week are always going to be new games, not games that are getting a re-release on a different platform, because then we'd be here forever because there are so many of those. So we'll go back and forth. The first one is Across the Valley, which is a virtual reality farming sim, dropping today.
Nice. Curse of the Sea Rats, also dropping today.
Everspace 2, which we did mention earlier, dropping today. Good luck with this one.
Hagen Urethil?
Yeah.
Mobile?
Hagen Urethil.
Dropping today?
Yep, dropping on the mobile phone. It looks like a what's the name of that game? Oh my gosh, the anime game. Impact. Genshin
Traveler?
Impact. It looks like a Genshin Impact clone.
Okay.
Hyper Violent, which is a Doom clone, like a classic Doom clone, is dropping today.
Marfusha? Dropping today.
Oxygen, also dropping today.
Raven's Watch is dropping today.
EA Sports PGA Tour is dropping tomorrow.
Suffer the Night, also dropping tomorrow.
The Library of Babel, which anybody in my indie scene, you may be very curious to learn more about that. If you liked games, if you like Metroidvanias, that might be one you want to check out.
Sherlock Holmes The Awakened, dropping on the 11th.
Tron Identity is dropping on the 11th, which you may like Tron games, you may not, but this one would definitely be very specific. This is a visual novel Tron game produced by Mike Bithell of Bithell Games.
Very nice. Plantera 2, dropping on the 12th.
That's dropping on the 12th, as well as Rusted Moss, which is also dropping on the 12th. Both of those look like pretty interesting little immersion sims. And then we'll get into movies. Movies dropping both tomorrow. Both are actually dropping tomorrow. On the 7th is going to be Chevalier, which is a film about a slave child in the 1800s, 1700s in France, who plays the violin and ends up rising out of that slavery status into a strange place of class and distinction and race. Should be an interesting film. I hope that it does well. And then Chupa is dropping on Netflix on the 7th. It looks like a kind of story where a child finds a baby version of maybe a chupacabra. I don't know, but it's sweet and innocent, and so hopefully they don't harm the poor little Chupa. TV, it looks like Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies is dropping today on Paramount. So for those of you that really love the movie Grease, some kind of origin story on the Pink Ladies. And then something I could not be less excited for. I'm not a big Jeremy Renner fan in general, but let alone Jeremy Renner doing renovations in a show called Renovations on the 12th on Disney+. So for those of you that really like Jeremy Renner and really like Property Brothers, that's for you, but that is not for me. Maybe my wife will like that show, but I am not about it. She really likes the home HGTV stuff, and I'm like, I've seen enough Joanna Gaines in my day to know that she's just going to put shiplap on everything. And then comics. A new Image comic is hitting the scenes on the 12th called World Tree. Good luck spelling it, because it is W0RLDTR33, World Tree. And it looks like a cyberpunk-esque kind of deep dive world where the internet is starting to bleed into the real world, and you are a cyber warrior, or our story follows a cyber warrior who is trying to fight back against the internet. That should be interesting enough, kind of Matrixy in that way. And those have been the upcoming releases. Any of those highlight out for you or stand out for you, since I know you had to run and get your charger there?
Yeah, actually the World Tree sounds really cool, and the Rise of the Pink Ladies sounded interesting just 'cause I was a theater kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when a new musical kind of thing drops, I gotta at least check it out, see what's going on with that.
Super fun. All right, well, let us know in the chat if any of those sound interesting to you, or if you would like to know more about them or highlight them. I doubt we'll play any of these on stream, but I'll probably be playing Library of Babel, at least on my own time, and it should be an interesting little chunk of time. With that, we're going to move into our final segment of the show, but this time it was submitted by Sneaky Pigs. There it is. It is the Spirit Halloween taking over the stadium where E3 2023 was going to be hosted, which is a good goof, a good bit, because Spirit automatically moves in as soon as things shut down. Very funny stuff. So appreciate Sneaky for submitting that. Chats the clap for Sneaky. We always stand Sneaky. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show here. So any final thoughts from you, Wizened, or anything you'd like to say, any places that people can find you other than just over on the Discord?
Mostly just on the Discord. I do have a Twitch, but I don't stream on it very often. Maybe I just need some encouragement with that. Who knows? But yeah, mostly on the Discord and on TikTok as Wizened Lemur.
Rock on. All right, well, we're going to end this as we always do with our three things that we believe to be true about every single one of you. But before we do that, I do want to say, be sure to, if you're on Twitch right now, say hi YouTube in the chat. And if you are watching this on YouTube, I thank you for watching it. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to join us on these weekly geekly news shows. If you like this kind of content, you want to see more of it, be sure to give us a thumbs up down there to let us know that this is something you want to see more of, that you're enjoying, and that it's something that you want us to continue producing. We would appreciate that kind of feedback. I do check out those things so that I know what we're thinking. Be sure to weigh down in the comments down below also some of your thoughts as the show goes on, and things that you might have found interesting or wanted to weigh in on further. I do read those comments as well. And with that, we're going to end this stream, as we always do, with our three things that we believe to be true about every single one of you out there. Number one, that God loves you like really, really loves you. Number two, we love you. We want community with you. And number three, we believe that you, yes, you matter. You're a person of sacred worth. The world is a better place. Why? Because you are in it. Folks, with that, until the next time that we see ya, bye-bye.